If you've ever watched a high performer walk out the door and thought, I had no idea they were unhappy, this video is for you. And if you are that high performer sitting in a meeting right now thinking, nobody here has any idea what I'm actually dealing with, this video is also for you, because here's the thing, you're both right. And that gap between you is costing everyone. Let's talk about what actually happens when a top performer quits. The manager gets blindsided. The exit interview is vague. HR files it under seeking new opportunities. Everybody nods, posts the job listing, and moves on. Meanwhile, the person who just walked out is telling their friends the real story over drinks. And that story, it has nothing to do with salary, career growth, or a better offer somewhere else. It has to do with something nobody put in writing, something that was never in the employee handbook, something they figured out on their own, probably in the first 90 days. It's the invisible rules. Every organization has them. The unwritten code about who really gets promoted, whose ideas actually matter, what gets rewarded versus what gets punished. High performers read those rules faster than anyone. That's part of what makes them high performers. They're fast, they're perceptive, and they are paying attention. And the moment those invisible rules conflict with their values, the clock starts ticking. Here's what that looks like in practice. The invisible rule might be, we say we value innovation, but if you challenge the VP's approach, your career quietly stalls. Or, we say people are our greatest asset, but the managers who hit their numbers get protected no matter how they treat their teams. Or the classic, we talk about work-life balance right up until crunch time, and crunch time is apparently 11 months a year. Your best people don't ignore these signals. They collect them, they test them, they triangulate. And when the pattern is clear enough, they start updating their resumes. Here's what makes it worse. They almost never tell you why they're leaving, not the real reason. They'll say they found a great opportunity. They'll say they're ready for a new challenge. They'll say all the right things to get through the offboarding process without burning a bridge. But the real reason? It sounds something like, I realize my values and this organization's values aren't the same thing, and I got tired of pretending otherwise. That's not something most people say to their manager's face, so the manager never learns. The pattern repeats, and the revolving door keeps spinning. A few years back, I worked with an IT organization that was losing high performers at a troubling rate. The leadership team was frustrated. They'd done salary benchmarking, they'd added perks, they'd talked to HR, nothing moved the needle. When I came in, I didn't start with a survey or a task force or a 12-step culture transformation program. I asked a simpler question. When was the last time a manager sat down with a high performer one-on-one and said, you're valued here. What's getting in your way? Silence. Not hostile silence. More like the silence of people who had never quite thought about it that way. So we ran an experiment. Managers started scheduling short, regular check-ins with their top people. Every other week. No agenda, no performance review, no status update. Just two things. You matter to this team, and I want to understand what's frustrating you. No grand gestures, no off-site retreats, no culture consultants redesigning the org chart. Just a manager, a high performer, and an honest conversation. Retention of high performers went up 27%. Not because the company suddenly got perfect, not because all the frustrations disappeared, but because people finally felt seen. They knew someone was paying attention. They knew they could name a problem without it being used against them. And when you know that, leaving becomes a lot less urgent. Here's what that experiment taught me, and it's something I want both groups in this conversation to hear. For the managers, your best people are not leaving because of the job. They're leaving because of the gap. The gap between what the organization says it values and what it actually rewards. The gap between what you know about their frustration and what they feel safe enough to tell you. The more invisible that gap stays, the more your retention problem compounds. You don't close that gap with a survey or a ping pong table. You close it with consistency, showing up, asking real questions, and actually doing something with the answers. For the high performers watching this, I know the frustration is real. I know it can feel like nobody's paying attention. But before you update your resume, consider whether you've ever named the problem to someone with the authority to address it. Not as a complaint, but as a request. Here's what's getting in my way. Here's what I need to do my best work. Some managers won't respond. Some organizations aren't fixable. But a lot of talented people leave situations that could have been changed because nobody ever said the thing out loud. The invisible rules stay invisible, partly because we let them. If you're a manager, here's your action. Identify your three most important contributors. Schedule a 30-minute conversation with each of them this week, not a performance review, not a project update, just, I value what you bring to this team. What's getting in your way right now? Then listen. Don't defend, don't explain, just listen and take notes. That's it. That's the whole intervention. If you're a high performer who's been sitting on frustrations and hoping someone notices, they probably haven't, but they might respond if you tell them. It's worth finding out before you decide the gap is too wide to close. Drop a comment below. I want to know, have you ever left a job without telling the real reason? Or have you been the manager who found out too late? Let's talk about it. If this landed for you, subscribe and hit the bell. I put out videos every week on making teams work better and making work worth doing. See you next week.